Is a spot ETF the holy grail for Bitcoin?
It definitely is. I completely agree with all of the comments meant earlier. And I think the biggest thing is really the comment around protection of consumers. When you have a futures ETF, futures inherently trade at a premium to spot, normally on average around 5%. And that can equate to a year-end cost of anywhere between 15 to 20% of a premium on that price. And so when you think about, protection of consumers, you're actually not really getting the best product out there. And so not just that, there's the 90 bit fee on these futures backed ETFs. And so I think even if you compare it to that grayscale, index fund with a 2% fee, that is still cheaper all in because it's spot in the underlying than that future based ETF.
So if this holy grail is approved, how does that change the crypto market?
Great question. So a lot of this is supply and demand. And so right now we are continuing to head into a supply crunch. And so, we have 21 million Bitcoin. They're being mined every minute, every second, every hour. And so being able to lower that supply is going to have an inherent impact on that price as opposed to the futures price.
Now, it was a relatively quiet week for Bitcoin. Ethereum, on the other hand, really rallying. What do you make of that, given how expensive transactions are getting?
I think the largest thing coming out of NFT New York City in the conference this week is really that crypto is just much larger than finance. And you have a ton of applications being built on top of Ethereum and coinciding with Ethereum. Specifically this week, you have blockchain, gaming, art and media, a ton of investments being poured into metaverse. And so all of that coincides with there are real use cases outside of this finance bucket that initially crypto was very much associated with. And it's almost as I assume, in the early 1920s, we, assumed that tech was this massive bubble. And then you had fintech, e-commerce, and media break out into that. I really expect crypto to do the same outside of just the initial financial bucket we had to start.
It's also been a busy couple of weeks for the metaverse, and I'm curious what you think the role of crypto in the metaverse could be.
It's going to be really movement of assets. And so I think, today, the way I think about it is how do you value your time? And, especially if you think about creators, how do you value things that maybe, computers can't necessarily generate? Or, I think Microsoft's CEO also mentioned, how do you value presence and human connection in a different way? And so I think today being able to use blockchain and crypto to create interoperability and intrinsic rights, as mentioned previously, is really going to be important to digitize all of that in a way that's more accessible and democratized.